Chosen one, did you know that right now, as you sit there, someone you once loved is dying? Someone who raised you, cared for you, sacrificed for you is slipping away while you scroll through your phone, wondering why your prayers feel like they're hitting a concrete ceiling. Did you know that the very breath you just took might be numbered among your last 1,000? That the doctor's appointment you've been avoiding could change everything in a single afternoon? Did you know that God has been orchestrating every heartbreak, every loss, every sleepless night you've endured for the past 70 years for this moment? If you are hearing my voice right now, stop everything. This is not by accident. This is not by chance. This is not by coincidence. God Himself has interrupted your routine, your scrolling, your silence. Heaven pressed pause on eternity itself for you. Listen to me carefully. For decades, you thought you were walking blind through a maze of disappointment. The children who don't call, the dreams that died in your 20s, the marriage that ended, the money that ran out, the body that's failing. You thought God had forgotten your name, but what if I told you that every single moment was part of His hidden plan? What if the script of heaven has been in God's hands all along, and you've been playing the starring role in a divine drama that's about to reach its climax? You see, life isn't random chaos. It's a stage play directed by the Almighty, and the curtain is about to rise on the third act, your act, the one where everything that was broken gets redeemed, where every tear you cried becomes a river of blessing. Right now, type "I receive it" in the comments. Don't just watch, participate. Lift your hand if you feel something stirring in your spirit. This isn't entertainment, beloved. This is your divine appointment. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel forgotten in their twilight years. Whether you choose to sow a seed today or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your time, your attention, your open heart. It all matters to Him. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about your purpose. God's hidden plan for your life is no longer hidden. The veil is being lifted. And you, chosen one, are about to discover why every moment of pain was preparing you for this hour of power. Why do you think you've survived everything that should have killed you? Why are you still breathing when that heart attack in 2098 should have been the end? Why did you walk away from that car wreck on I-95 when the paramedics said it was impossible? Why do you think your name is still being spoken in rooms you've never entered by people who need what only you can give? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. You didn't survive by accident. You didn't make it through Vietnam, through cancer, through the death of your spouse, through bankruptcy, through watching your children make terrible choices. You didn't survive all of that because you're lucky. You survived because you're chosen. The Apostle Peter knew this truth when he wrote these words in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, His own special possession, that you may proclaim the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. Listen to that word, chosen, not by chance, not by lottery, not because you deserved it or earned it. Chosen. Before you took your first breath in that hospital room 70, 80 years ago, God looked down through the corridors of time and said, "That one, that child will be mine." You know that feeling when you hold your grandmother's Bible, the one with the cracked leather spine and the pages soft as tissue paper, how you handle it with reverence because it's precious, irreplaceable, sacred. That's exactly how God holds you. You are His family heirloom, passed down through generations of faith, marked by His hand, treasured beyond measure. But here's what nobody told you about being chosen. It comes with a price. The very thing that makes you precious also makes you a target. Every attack you faced, every season of darkness, every moment when you felt buried alive under the weight of circumstances that wasn't random persecution. That was strategic warfare against someone heaven values. Think about it. When did the attack start? Right after you began to sense there was something different about you. Right after you started feeling that pull towards something greater. Right after you began to pray like you meant it, love like it mattered, hope like it could change everything. The enemy saw your marking. He recognized the seal of the Almighty on your life, and he's been trying to snuff out your light ever since. But here's the mystery that's about to blow your mind. Every dark season was actually preparation. Every burial was actually planting. You thought the darkness was your grave, but it was your greenhouse. Listen carefully, beloved. In nature, seeds don't grow in the sunlight. They grow in the dark, underground, where no one can see them. The pressure of the soil above them, the weight that feels like it's crushing them, that's actually what forces them to push deeper, to develop stronger roots, to prepare for the breakthrough that's coming. For decades, you felt buried. Your dreams seemed dead. Your purpose felt forgotten. Your prayers felt like they were bouncing off heaven's ceiling. You thought God had moved on to younger, stronger, more talented people. But you were never buried. You were planted. Every broken promise that crushed your spirit was adding nutrients to the soil of your character. Every betrayal that left you gasping for air was teaching your roots to dig deeper into the bedrock of faith. Every loss that felt like death was actually killing off everything in you that wasn't eternal, everything that wouldn't survive the glory that's coming. The hidden plan has always been to make you rise after the fire, to make you shine after the storm, to reveal your true identity, not when life was easy, but when life was impossible. You want to know why God allowed you to lose that job at 55, why He permitted that diagnosis, why He let that marriage fall apart. Because He was stripping away everything that was defining you, so that only His definition would remain. You are not your failures. You are not your medical chart. You are not your financial statement. You are not what your children think of you, or what your neighbors whisper about you. You are chosen. You are royal. You are holy. You are His special possession. And right now, in this very moment, the hidden plan that's been brewing in the darkness of your circumstances is about to break open like dawn after the longest night you've ever endured. If you feel something stirring in your spirit right now, if you sense that these aren't just words, but a divine download straight from heaven's throne room, drop a 777-inch the comments. This isn't superstition, dear one. This is a prophetic act. 7 is the number of completion. And typing those 3 sevens is your declaration that you believe God's complete plan is breaking open in your life right now. Don't just listen to this message, participate in this moment, because what I'm about to reveal next will connect every dot, answer every question, and show you exactly why you're still here when so many others aren't. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to look back over the landscape of your life. Not with shame, not with regret, but with the eyes of someone who's about to understand a divine mystery that's been hidden from you for decades. Some of you buried children before you buried your parents. Some of you held the hand of a spouse as they took their final breath, whispering, "I love you," to silence. Some of you sacrificed your dreams, your money, your youth for children who walked away and never looked back. Some of you prayed until your knees bled, fasted until you felt faint, and wondered if heaven had your address wrong. You've carried scars that no one sees, the miscarriage that broke your heart at 23, the business that failed when you were 45, the diagnosis that changed everything at 62, the loneliness that sits beside you at the dinner table every single night. You've wondered, haven't you? You've asked God in the dark hours, why me? Why this? Why now? But what if I told you something that would change how you see every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you wanted to give up? What if those crushing moments weren't punishments? What if they were preparation? Look at Joseph, 17 years old, full of dreams, and his own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him like cattle. 13 years of slavery and prison followed, 13 years of wondering if God had forgotten His promises. But Genesis 50-20 reveals the mystery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every betrayal was positioning him. Every injustice was preparation. Every tear was an investment in a future he couldn't yet see. Consider Job. He lost everything in a single day: children, wealth, health. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. But Job 42:12 tells us the rest of the story. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. The crushing wasn't meant to destroy him. It was meant to reveal what couldn't be broken. Moses spent 40 years as a prince in Egypt, then 40 years as a shepherd in the wilderness, before God called him at 80 to deliver a nation. 40 years of waiting. 40 years of wondering if his life had any meaning. But Exodus 7:7 shows us God's perfect timing. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. What looked like wasted time was actually preparation time. Dear one, do you see the pattern? The diamond doesn't choose the pressure. The gold doesn't choose the fire. But the pressure creates the brilliance, and the fire reveals the purity. Your marriage that ended after 37 years, that wasn't the end of your story. It was the end of a chapter that was preparing you for something greater. Your child who broke your heart with their choices, that wasn't God punishing you for being a bad parent. That was God using your pain to develop a compassion that will heal other broken hearts. The cancer you survived, the bankruptcy you endured, the depression that nearly took you under, those weren't signs that God had abandoned you. Those were your training grounds. Every scar on your soul is actually a spiritual medal of honor, proof that you've been through hell and came out stronger. Here's what the enemy never wanted you to understand. He thought he was destroying you, but he was actually developing you. Every time he tried to bury you, he didn't realize he was planting you like a seed. Seeds have to die to their old form before they can produce a harvest. You've been in the ground, chosen one, but you weren't dead. You were germinating. 1 Corinthians 15:36 says it plainly. What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. Your old life had to die so your new life could be born. Your old dreams had to crumble so God's dreams for you could take root. The devil tried to bury you, but he made one critical mistake. He didn't know you were a seed. Right now, at this very moment, you're not just surviving your past, you're being empowered by it. Every struggle you endured was conditioning your spiritual muscles for the weight of the blessing that's coming. Every disappointment was developing your discernment. Every loss was increasing your capacity to appreciate what God has prepared. But here's what's keeping you awake at night, isn't it? Why now? Why is God revealing his hidden plan in this season of your life? Why not when you were 30, when you had more energy? Why not when you were 50, when you had more time? Why wait until you're in the autumn of your years, when your hair is gray and your body is tired? The answer to that question will absolutely shock you, and it's the key to everything God is about to release in your life. You've been living with a lie for decades, the lie that your best days are behind you, that your purpose expired when you retired, that God's plan for your life was somehow smaller than the dreams you buried in your 30s. But I'm here to shatter that deception with the weight of eternity itself. Listen to me, chosen one. The hidden plan of God is not about survival. It's about revival through you, not in spite of your age, but because of it, not despite your scars, but through them. You see, the enemy has been whispering in your ear for years. You're too old. You missed your chance. Your children don't need you anymore. Your body is failing. Your memory isn't what it used to be. But what if every whisper was a lie designed to keep you from discovering the explosive truth that's about to rock your world? Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Did you catch that? A future. Not just a past to reminisce about, but a future blazing with divine purpose. Your gray hairs are not shame, they are crowns of wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face is a battle scar from fights you've won. Every medication bottle in your cabinet is proof that you've survived what would have killed weaker souls. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to know. Here's the secret that's been hidden in plain sight for 70+ years of your life. God has been weaving a tapestry, and you've been staring at the underside the whole time. Think about it. When you look at the back of a tapestry, what do you see? Tangled threads, knots, colors that make no sense, chaos. That's what your life has looked like from your perspective, hasn't it? The divorce that devastated you, the job you lost, the child who walked away, the dreams that died, the prayers that seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down like stones. You thought it was all random, meaningless, evidence that God had forgotten your address. But what if I told you that God has been the master weaver all along? What if every broken thread was intentional? What if every dark color was necessary for the pattern? What if the very chaos you've been staring at was actually the evidence of a masterpiece being created? Because here's the moment that changes everything. Here's the revelation that's about to flip your entire understanding upside down. You thought the silence meant God forgot, but heaven was weaving your story in secret. Every time you wondered where God was during your darkest hour, He was threading another strand of gold into your story. Every time you felt abandoned, forsaken, left behind, God was positioning you for a comeback so powerful it would defy every statistic about aging in America. Do you know what the statistics say about people your age? They say you're supposed to be winding down, withdrawing, becoming invisible, waiting to die. But God's statistics say something different. They say Moses was 80 when he led the Exodus. Abraham was 75 when he left everything to follow God's call. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to the promise. The hidden plan of God doesn't follow human timelines. It follows divine purpose. Right now, in nursing homes across America, there are prayer warriors interceding for nations. In retirement communities from Florida to Arizona, there are grandmothers whose prayers are stopping natural disasters. In assisted living facilities, there are men whose whispered blessings are changing the spiritual atmosphere over entire cities. You think you're forgotten, you think you're invisible, you think your time is over. The hidden plan says otherwise. God has been preparing you for this moment your entire life. Every heartbreak taught you compassion. Every loss taught you to hold loosely to earthly things. Every disappointment taught you to anchor your hope in something eternal. Every year of aging has been removing the distractions, stripping away the superficial, burning off everything that isn't essential, until what remains is pure gold. You are not a has-been. You are a right now. But here's the urgency that's gripping my spirit as I speak to you. The enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. He knows that the most dangerous person on earth is not a young warrior with fire in their eyes. It's an elderly saint with nothing left to lose and everything eternal to gain. That's why he's been working overtime to convince you that your season is over, because he's terrified of what happens when you finally understand that it's just beginning. If you feel the spirit stirring right now, if something deep in your chest is burning like fire, don't ignore it. Say aloud, right where you're sitting, God's plan is alive in me. Don't just think it, speak it. Heaven records your declaration. Angels lean in when the elderly declare their faith. Because what I'm about to tell you next will explain why every closed door in your past was actually God preparing to open the greatest door of your life. But here's where most people miss it, chosen one. They think revelation is enough. They believe that knowing God's plan automatically activates it. That's the lie that's kept you circling the same mountain for decades. This is not just inspiration, it is instruction. Heaven says, no more delay. You've heard sermons before, you've read devotions, you've prayed prayers, but how many times have you walked away unchanged? How many Sunday mornings have you felt moved, only to return to Monday with the same fears, the same limitations, the same acceptance of this is just how it is? Let me tell you what's really happening. You're standing exactly where the Israelites stood at Jericho. For 40 years, they wandered in circles, dying in a desert, convinced their promised land was impossible to reach. Sound familiar? How many years have you been circling your own Jericho, your failing health, your broken relationships, your financial struggles, your deep loneliness? But listen to what Joshua 6:2 says. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands. Not I will deliver, not I might deliver. I have delivered." Past tense, already done. Your walls are already falling, but God is waiting for your obedience to make it visible. The Israelites had to march. They had to blow trumpets. They had to shout. For 6 days, nothing happened. The walls stood firm. I can hear them whispering on day 3, "This isn't working." On day 5, "We look foolish." On day 6, "Maybe we heard wrong." Does that sound like your prayer life? Your faith journey? You've been faithful for years, but the walls of your circumstances haven't budged. Your adult children still won't speak to you. The doctor's reports haven't changed. The bank account is still empty. The loneliness still cuts deep at 3 a.m. But chosen one, you're not on day 1 of your march around Jericho, you're on day 6. The breakthrough isn't coming, it's here. In the next 7 days, God is collapsing walls you thought were permanent. The walls of regret that have imprisoned your peace. The walls of fear that have limited your faith. The walls of "it's too late for me" that have stolen your hope. But here's what Joshua's army had to do that most believers never understand. They had to act while the walls were still standing. They had to march while nothing looked different. They had to believe the victory before they could see it. Right now, grab your phone, open your notes or find a pen and paper. Write today's date, not tomorrow's, not next week's, today's date. Write it in the comments below this video. This isn't just participation. This is your covenant mark of faith. This is you telling heaven, "I'm ready to march around my Jericho." Because here's the prophetic word I'm releasing over your life right now. The walls that have held you captive for decades are about to crumble. The relationship that's been broken for years is about to be restored. The health issue that's had you worried is about to turn around. The financial breakthrough you've prayed for is about to manifest. But it requires action. Faith without works is dead, James 2:26 tells us. You can't just feel inspired, you have to move inspired. 24 hours from now, when you wake up, your march begins. Not next month when you feel more ready, not after you figure everything out, not when circumstances look better. Now, today, this moment. Because the enemy's greatest weapon isn't doubt, it's delay. He whispers, "Wait until tomorrow, wait until you're stronger, wait until you understand more." But tomorrow never comes for the one who's always waiting for tomorrow. What if Moses had waited to part the Red Sea until he understood how water could stand like walls? What if David had waited to face Goliath until he was the size of a giant? What if Mary had waited to say yes to God until she understood how a virgin could give birth? Your breakthrough isn't waiting for your understanding, it's waiting for your obedience. So I'm asking you directly, and your answer determines everything that happens next. Will you march around your Jericho starting tomorrow morning? Will you pick up your phone and call that estranged family member? Will you schedule that doctor's appointment you've been avoiding? Will you finally forgive the person who wounded you 30 years ago? Or will you close this video, feel temporarily inspired, and return to the same life you've been living for the past decade? The choice is yours, chosen one. But understand this, opportunity has an expiration date. Grace has a season. And right now, heaven's window over your life is wide open. But what does God expect of you now, chosen one? What must you do with this revelation that could either transform your remaining years or leave you with the regret of another missed moment? Listen to me, beloved. You think your best days are behind you. You look in the mirror and see wrinkles where dreams used to shine. You feel your body slowing down, your energy fading, your children pulling away. The world whispers that you're obsolete, that your time is over, that you should quietly fade into the background. But that is the greatest lie the enemy has ever told. You are not fading out. You are passing on fire. Right now, at this very moment, There's a battle raging in the spiritual realm over your grandchildren, over your neighborhood, over this nation. And God hasn't placed you on the sidelines as a spectator. He's positioned you as the secret weapon. You see, every prayer you whisper in your living room at 3 a.m. becomes thunder in heaven. Every tear you shed over your prodigal son becomes rain that softens his hardened heart. Every time you lay hands on your grandchild's photo and speak life over their future, you're not just hoping, you're prophesying, you're decreeing, you're activating the hidden plan of God. Think about Moses. When was his greatest victory? When he was young and strong, fleeing Egypt. Number. It was at 80 years old, standing before Pharaoh with a walking stick, declaring, "Let my people go." Your walking stick, your wheelchair, your oxygen tank, they're not signs of weakness. They're your staff of authority in God's kingdom. But here's what the church won't tell you. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Your family is counting on you in ways they don't even understand. That grandson addicted to drugs, that daughter going through her third divorce, that great-grandchild you barely see. Their breakthrough is tied to your faithfulness right now. The hidden plan wasn't just about you surviving 70, 80, 90 years. It was about everyone connected to your name. You are the foundation. You are the bedrock. Nobody sees the foundation of a house, but without it, everything collapses. Abraham didn't see the promised land, but his faith built a nation. Moses died before entering Canaan, but his obedience opened the door for millions. David's psalms written in caves still deliver people from depression today. Your prayers, spoken in your kitchen, are changing destinies you'll never see. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're not retired from God's army. You've been promoted to the prayer room. You're not too old to matter. You're finally old enough to carry the weight of intercession that younger believers can't handle. Every Sunday you sit in that church pew. You think you're just an old person taking up space. But God sees a nuclear reactor of spiritual power. When you worship, heaven shakes. When you declare His word, demons flee. When you speak blessing over the next generation, you're literally rewriting their future. That's why the enemy has tried so hard to make you feel useless. That's why depression whispers in your ear at night. That's why loneliness tries to convince you that nobody needs you anymore. Because he knows something you're just now discovering. You are more dangerous to his kingdom now than you've ever been. Your prayers have compound interest. 70 years of faith doesn't make you weak. It makes you unstoppable. Every battle you've won, every storm you've survived, every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, has built spiritual muscle that can move mountains your grandchildren can't even see yet. But here's the urgency. Time is not on our side. The window is closing. This generation needs your prayers now, not next year. Your wisdom now, not when you're ready. Your blessing now, not when it's convenient. There's a name on your heart right now, a face that just flashed through your mind. That's not coincidence. That's the Holy Spirit highlighting your assignment. That child, that grandchild, that great-grandchild, that neighbor's kid who calls you grandma, they're waiting for the power of your hidden plan to be released over their life. If you have a child or grandchild on your heart right now, type their name in the comments below. Don't just think about it, act. Declare their breakthrough as part of your hidden plan. Watch what happens when you stop seeing yourself as old and start seeing yourself as anointed. The question isn't whether God can use you at your age. The question is whether you'll finally embrace the truth that this might be the most important chapter of your entire story. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That hollow ache that lives in your chest at 3 a.m. when the house is silent and the memories start whispering. The empty chair at your dinner table where someone used to sit. The phone that used to ring with their voice, now collecting dust in your pocket. Some of you have cried so deeply that the tears never reached your eyes. They just lived in your chest, a pool of grief that never dried up. You've sat in doctors' offices receiving news that changed everything. You've watched grown children walk away from everything you taught them. You've buried dreams alongside the people you loved. Why does it hurt so much at 70, at 80? Why does the pain feel deeper now than it did at 25? Because you thought by now, by this age, God would have smoothed out the rough edges. You thought the storms would be over. You thought your children would call more often. You thought your health would hold up just a little longer. You thought there would be more time. But instead, you're watching your body betray you one joint at a time, your memory playing tricks on you, your fixed income shrinking while everything else gets more expensive. The friends you counted on have either moved to Florida or moved to glory, and the silence from heaven feels deafening. Remember when you were young and full of fire for God? When you believed every promise in the Bible was meant for you? All things work together for good, you'd quote. He has plans to prosper you and not to harm you. But where's that prosperity now? Where's that hope and that future? You've been faithful. You tithed when you could barely afford groceries. You served in the church kitchen for 30 years. You prayed for your wayward children until your knees were raw. You trusted when the tests came back positive. You believed when the pink slip arrived. You hoped when the divorce papers were filed. But God stayed silent. Some of you have been carrying guilt for decades. That harsh word you spoke to your mother before she died. The time you chose work over your child's school play. The affair that destroyed your marriage 20 years ago, but still haunts your dreams. The addiction you hid from everyone, including yourself. You've confessed it 1,000 times, but the shame still follows you like a shadow. Why won't it leave? Why does God seem to forgive everyone else but not you? Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Those tears were not wasted. Psalm 56:8 says, God keeps track of all your sorrows and collects all your tears in his bottle. Every cry was stored, every ache recorded, every midnight prayer when you thought no one was listening. Revelation 5:8 tells us they were kept in golden bowls before his throne. But why did God let the pain last this long? Why the delay? Why didn't he heal your marriage when you were 40, instead of letting you suffer alone for 30 more years? Why didn't he bring your prodigal son home when you still had strength to celebrate? The enemy wants you to think it's because you're not worthy, because you failed somewhere, because God loves others more than he loves you. But what if I told you something that will shake your understanding of suffering forever? What if those decades of pain weren't punishment but preparation? What if God was conditioning your hands to carry blessings that only scarred hands can hold? Think about it. A calloused hand can grip what soft hands would drop. A heart that's been broken can hold compassion that an untested heart could never contain. Eyes that have cried can see hope where others see only darkness. You see, God wasn't ignoring your pain. He was using it to forge you into something the world desperately needs right now. Someone who knows what real loss feels like. Someone who's walked through the valley of the shadow of death and lived to tell about it. Someone whose faith has been tested by fire and came out as pure gold. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every loss taught you what really matters. Every unanswered prayer taught you to trust God's timing over your understanding. Every lonely night taught you that he is enough when everything else falls away. The reason your struggles cut so deep is because God was cutting away everything that wasn't eternal, everything that wouldn't matter in light of eternity. He was stripping away your dependence on things that could be taken away, so you'd learn to depend on the one who never leaves. But here's the question that's burning in your spirit right now. If God was preparing you all along, what exactly was he preparing you for? What's so important that it required 70 years of refinement? What blessing is coming that only your scarred hands can carry? You felt it, didn't you? That shift in your spirit when I spoke those words about God's hidden plan. That wasn't just emotion, beloved. That was recognition. Your soul remembering something heaven never forgot. But here's what will shake you to your core. The first scroll revealed your identity as chosen. Now, the second scroll is being unrolled in the throne room of heaven, and it reveals your assignment. Not for tomorrow, not for next year. For right now, in the final chapter of your earthly story. Listen carefully. Those strange coincidences that have been happening in your life lately, The phone call that came at exactly the right moment. The song on the radio that spoke directly to your situation. The dream that woke you up at 3 a.m. with crystal clarity about a decision you needed to make. You thought these were random. You thought wrong. Not random, not coincidence, not luck. Divine orchestration. God has been dropping breadcrumbs of revelation across your path, and you've been walking right over them, thinking you were just getting older, just experiencing the normal flow of life. But there is nothing normal about what's happening to you right now. Heaven is accelerating its timeline, and you're caught in the acceleration zone. Do you want to know why you've been having more dreams than ever before? Why you're suddenly remembering people from decades ago? Why you feel this urgent pull to reconcile, to forgive, to speak words you've held back for years? Because God is activating the prophetic gifting that's been dormant in you since birth. Joel 2:28 says, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your old men will dream dreams, your OLD men, not your young men. You, the one with grey hair and weathered hands and a lifetime of experience. You are entering your prophetic season, but here's where it gets uncomfortable. Look around you. The storms are intensifying, the hurricanes are stronger, the earthquakes more frequent, the political divisions deeper, the families more fractured, the diseases more resistant. You've been watching the news, wondering what's happening to the world. I'll tell you what's happening. These aren't signs of the end. These are labor pains of a new beginning. And just like a woman in labor, the pain intensifies right before the breakthrough. Creation itself is groaning, waiting for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed, waiting for you to step into your assignment. You see, every major move of God in history required someone in their later years to carry the weight of divine responsibility. Moses didn't lead Israel out of Egypt until he was 80 years old. Abraham didn't receive his promised son until he was 100. Anna, the prophetess, waited until she was 84 to see the Messiah with her own eyes. Why do you think God waits until your sunset years to reveal the deepest mysteries? Because by now, you've been stripped of your illusions. You've buried enough dreams to know which ones are worth keeping. You've loved enough people to understand the cost of true love. You've made enough mistakes to recognize grace when you see it. The enemy thought he could wear you down with decades of disappointment. He thought if he could just make you tired enough, discouraged enough, isolated enough, you'd give up on your divine calling and fade quietly into the background. But God had a different plan. Every rejection was redirecting you. Every closed door was positioning you. Every season of waiting was preparing you for this moment when heaven would need someone with unshakable faith, someone who's already been through hell and back, someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Right now, while I'm speaking these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm over your life. Can you feel it? That tightness in your chest, that stirring in your belly, that sudden clarity about relationships you need to restore and words you need to speak. That's not anxiety, that's activation. The hidden plan is not just about you rising, it's about generations being shifted because of your obedience, your children who walked away from faith, your grandchildren who never knew God, your great-grandchildren who haven't even been born yet. They're all connected to what you do with this revelation. Malachi 4:6 says, "He will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents." This isn't just a nice verse about family reconciliation. This is a prophetic promise about generational restoration that starts with you. When you stepped into this message today, you didn't just stumble onto another inspirational video. You walked into a divine courtroom where destinies are being decided. Your family's spiritual inheritance is hanging in the balance, and you hold the key. If you know this word is for your family, write their names in the comments right now. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just write their names. You're not just typing words on a screen. You're declaring their inheritance. You're breaking generational curses. You're opening spiritual doors that have been locked for decades. But here's the question that's burning in heaven right now, the question that will determine whether this moment becomes your breakthrough or just another missed opportunity. Will you have the courage to act on what God is revealing to you, even when it costs you comfort, even when it requires you to step outside everything familiar? You want to know why your 70s have been harder than your 20s, why the pain got sharper when you thought life would get easier, why God allowed your retirement dreams to crumble, your health to fail, your children to drift away just when you needed them most. Because, chosen one, you were never meant for the shallow end of existence. You were forged for something deeper, something eternal. And deep things require deep pressure. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those lines, those spots, those trembling fingers that can't hold a coffee cup steady anymore. The world sees decay, but God sees a masterpiece 70 years in the making. Every wrinkle is a story. Every scar is a victory. Every shake is proof you've endured what would have destroyed lesser souls. You think you're breaking down. God knows you're being broken open. Let me paint you a picture. In the steel mills of Pittsburgh, there's a furnace that burns at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The blacksmith takes raw iron, worthless and brittle, and thrusts it into that inferno. The metal screams. It glows white hot. It looks like it's being destroyed. But the master craftsman knows something the metal doesn't know. The fire isn't the enemy. The fire is the beginning of transformation. Every blow of the hammer isn't punishment. It's purpose. Every strike is shaping a blade that will cut through darkness, a tool that will build kingdoms, a weapon that will defend the innocent. Chosen one, you have been in God's forge for 7 decades. Every heartbreak was his hammer. Every loss was his fire. Every tear you cried in the darkness was quenching the steel of your soul. Think about Joseph, 17 years old, dreaming of greatness, then sold into slavery by his own brothers, 13 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. The Bible says in Genesis 39-20 that Joseph's master took him and put him in prison. But here's what the world missed, and what you need to understand. That prison wasn't Joseph's punishment. It was his preparation. In that dungeon, Joseph learned to interpret dreams. In that darkness, he developed the wisdom to save nations. The pit wasn't meant to bury him. It was meant to birth a prime minister. When Pharaoh needed someone who understood suffering to manage abundance, who did he call? The man who had been forged in the fire of rejection, Daniel, in the lion's den. The world saw certain death. God saw a demonstration of his power. Those lions didn't devour Daniel because the fire of his faith had already consumed everything in him that could be touched by fear. David hiding in caves from King Saul for years, running, hiding, wondering if God's promise was a lie. But in those caves, David wrote the Psalms. In that wilderness, he learned to depend on God alone. The cave wasn't his grave, it was his cathedral. Every echo of his voice crying out to God was preparing him to lead a nation in worship. You've been in your cave, haven't you? The cave of loneliness after your spouse passed. The cave of regret over words you can't take back. The cave of fear about what the next doctor visit might reveal. You thought it was punishment. God knew it was preparation. The enemy tried to break you with that diagnosis. God was branding you with supernatural strength. The devil sent that financial crisis to destroy your faith. Heaven used it to prove your faith was stronger than your bank account. Satan whispered that your best years were behind you. The Almighty was forging you for the greatest chapter of your life. Right now, type "I am being forged" in the comments if you can feel this truth penetrating your spirit. Don't just hear these words. Receive them into the marrow of your bones. You see, there's something the enemy never understood about fire. Fire doesn't create. Fire reveals. It burns away everything that isn't essential, everything that isn't eternal, everything that can't survive the heat of God's purpose. Your pride burned away in that public humiliation. Your self-reliance melted in that season when you had to ask for help. Your fear of death dissolved when you realized you'd already survived your worst nightmare and found God faithful on the other side. The fire was not to burn you. It was to burn away what could not remain. And what remains, chosen one, is pure gold, refined, tested, proven, unbreakable gold. 1 Peter 1-7 declares, "These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. You are not iron anymore. You are steel. You are not coal anymore. You are diamond. You are not clay anymore. You are porcelain fired in the kiln of divine purpose." But here's the question that should make your heart race and your spirit tremble with anticipation. If the fire was shaping you, if every blow was making you stronger, if every trial was preparing you for something magnificent, what exactly is he shaping you for? You thought you were just getting older. You thought your time was over. You thought God was done with you because your knees ache, because your children moved away, because you're collecting social security instead of paychecks. But beloved, you've been believing the enemy's greatest lie. You are not alive today by accident. Heaven did not let you reach this age just to fade into invisibility, to become another forgotten face in a nursing home, to spend your final years watching game shows and waiting for death. You are breathing right now because your generation still needs your voice. Do you hear me? Your generation. The generation that's watching their country unravel. The generation that's seeing their grandchildren lose their way. The generation that remembers when prayer was in schools, when families stayed together, when people knew right from wrong. Look at me. Every gray hair on your head is a stripe of honor. Every wrinkle on your face is a battle scar from decades of surviving what would have broken lesser souls. You are not deteriorating. You are a lighthouse battered by 70 years of storms, weathered by decades of disappointment, but still standing, still shining, still guiding ships through the darkness. Think about the lighthouse keeper who tends his beacon night after night. The ships don't see him. They don't thank him. They don't even know his name. But without his light, they would crash on the rocks. You are that lighthouse keeper for your family, for your community, for a generation that has lost its way. When your adult children call you with their problems, when your grandchildren need wisdom, when your neighbors need hope, that's not coincidence. That's divine positioning. God stationed you here, at this exact moment in history, because the world needs someone who remembers what truth looks like. Listen to what Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us. "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Your season isn't ending, your season is shifting. From learning to teaching, from receiving to giving, from surviving to leading." But here's what will shock you to your core. This is why the devil fought you so hard through all those years. Not because of your past mistakes, not because of your failures, not because of your sins. He fought you because he could see your future influence. He could see this moment coming when you would rise up and become a weapon in God's hands. Every heart attack you survived, every cancer you beat, every depression you walked through, every loss you endured, Satan thought each one would be the final blow that would silence you forever. But God kept you alive because he knew this generation would need an elder who's been through hell and come out with their faith intact. Do you want to know why your prayers seem more powerful now than they were 30 years ago? Because you've been purified by fire. 1 Peter 1-7 says your faith is much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire. You're not a weak old person, you're refined gold. Your adult children may not call as often as they should, but when crisis hits their lives, whose number do they dial? Yours. Your grandchildren may seem distant, scrolling on their phones, but when they need real wisdom, who do they ask? You. Your community may overlook you, but when tragedy strikes, who do they turn to for strength? The elders who've walked through every storm life can throw. This is your assignment, chosen one. Not to retire into irrelevance, not to spend your remaining years in front of a television waiting for your final breath. Your assignment is to become the voice of truth in a generation drowning in lies. When your grandson comes home confused about his gender, you're the one who speaks truth in love. When your daughter's marriage is falling apart, You're the lighthouse that guides her back to solid ground. When your church is being torn apart by false teaching, you're the one who stands up and says, "This is not what we were taught." Romans 15:4 declares, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope." You are the living Scripture for the next generation. Your life is the Bible they're actually reading. But here's the urgency you must understand. Time is running out, not just for you, but for this nation, for this world, for these lost young people who need your guidance. Every day you remain silent. Every day you choose comfort over calling. Another soul slips into darkness. The enemy is counting on your resignation. He's counting on you believing you're too old, too irrelevant, too tired to make a difference. He wants you to think your time has passed. But Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Moses was 80 when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Your age is not your disqualification. Your age is your qualification. You've lived long enough to know what works and what doesn't. You've made enough mistakes to guide others away from the same pitfalls. You've experienced enough of God's faithfulness to speak with absolute authority about His character. Stand right now. I mean it. Stand up wherever you are. Lift your hand toward heaven and say these words. "Lord, I accept my assignment. I will not fade quietly. I will not go gentle into that good night. I will be the lighthouse you've called me to be." Write it in the comments. I accept my assignment. Seal it with your words. Make it real with your declaration. Because, beloved, what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how God plans to use your remaining years to shake the very foundations of hell itself. Why now? Why, after 70 years of silence, after decades of unanswered prayers, after all those nights you cried yourself to sleep wondering if God had lost your address? Why is heaven suddenly speaking to you today, in this very moment, through this very message? Because, beloved, heaven's timeline has reached your chapter. Look at me. Listen to every word I'm about to say. You've been asking God for years, "When will it be my turn? When will my breakthrough come? When will you remember me?" And all this time, heaven has been building toward this exact moment. Not 10 years ago when you were stronger. Not next year when you might not be here. Not someday when it's convenient. Now, here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Every delay you experienced, every door that slammed shut, every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling was God's protection. You weren't ready then. Your character wasn't forged. Your heart wasn't prepared. Your faith wasn't tested. But something has shifted in the heavenly realms. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your spirit? That stirring you can't explain? That's not anxiety, dear one. That's anticipation. Heaven is moving. In Esther chapter 4, verse 14, Mordecai looked at his adopted daughter and spoke words that echo through eternity. "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther wasn't young anymore when she stepped into her destiny. She had lived. She had suffered. She had wondered if her best years were behind her. But God had been positioning her all along. You think you're too old? Esther saved an entire nation when she was past her prime. You think it's too late? Moses was 80 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. You think God has forgotten you? Abraham became a father at 100. Your age isn't a disqualification. It's your qualification. Every wrinkle on your face tells a story of survival. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every scar is proof that you didn't quit when the devil tried to take you out. You're not in the twilight of your life, chosen one. You're in the power hour. Right now, at this very second, there's a scroll being unrolled in heaven with your name written across the top. The assignment that's been sealed since before you were born is being broken open. The plan that's been hidden in God's heart is being revealed. But here's the part that will shake you to your core. This isn't just about you anymore. You've been wondering why your children don't call, why your grandchildren seem distant, why your family is scattered, why everything feels broken. God has been isolating you, separating you, setting you apart. because what he's about to do through you will require your complete attention, your undivided focus, your total surrender. You've been in a wilderness season, but every wilderness has an exit. Every desert has an oasis. Every valley has a mountain. And beloved, you are standing at the foot of Mount Carmel. The showdown is here. The moment of power has arrived. The same God who parted the Red Sea for Moses is about to part the circumstances of your life. The same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel is about to silence every voice that has spoken defeat over your future. The same God who raised Lazarus from the dead is about to resurrect dreams you buried decades ago. But timing is everything. In the natural realm, a baby born too early doesn't survive. In the spiritual realm, a calling released too early gets aborted. God has been protecting your destiny by controlling the timing. Your waiting season is over. This is the appointed time. The scroll is open. The assignment is released. The plan is revealed. Type today's date in the comments below. Write it in your Bible. Circle it on your calendar, because this will be the day you'll look back and say, "That's when it shifted. That's when heaven invaded my situation. That's when the hidden plan of God was revealed." Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more ready. Today, this hour, this moment. But I need you to understand something that will determine whether you step into this or let it pass you by. The enemy is listening to this message too. He knows what's at stake. He's already planning his counterattack. He's going to whisper in your ear the moment this video ends. "That wasn't for you. You're too old. It's too late. Nothing ever changes." Don't you dare believe that lie. Don't you dare let 70 years of preparation be wasted because fear convinced you to stay in your chair when God is calling you to your feet. Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, beneath the surface of your ordinary Tuesday afternoon, something extraordinary is stirring. Do you feel it? That restless energy in your spirit that won't let you settle. That's not restlessness. That's resurrection power preparing to break through 70 years of burial. You've been hidden long enough, hidden behind the label of retirement, hidden behind the assumption that your best days are behind you, hidden behind the lie that God is finished with you. But heaven is declaring over you right now, no more hiding. Picture with me a seed. Not just any seed, but one that's been buried in the cold, dark earth for decades. The world walking above it has no idea of the magnificent oak tree sleeping in that tiny shell. Winter after winter, it endured. Storm after storm, it waited. Year after year, people stepped over the very ground where a forest was waiting to be born. That seed is you, and this is your breaking ground moment. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what should shake you to your core. How many of you right now are living like that seed is still buried? How many of you have accepted the narrative that at 75, 80, 85 years old, you're supposed to fade quietly into the background? How many of you believe the devil's lie that your influence is over? Let me ask you something that might sting. When was the last time your adult children asked for your wisdom? When was the last time your grandchildren saw you as anything more than the sweet old person who gives them $20 bills at Christmas? When was the last time you felt like you mattered in God's kingdom? I hear some of you thinking, "Pastor, those days are gone. I'm invisible now." No, beloved, you're not invisible. You've been incognito. There's a difference between being forgotten and being strategically positioned. God has been keeping you hidden like David in the shepherd's field, like Moses in the backside of the desert, like Esther in the king's chambers. Not because you were unimportant, but because you were so important that he needed to prepare you in secret for a public demonstration of his power. The scripture says in Isaiah 49:2, "He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver." You've been in God's quiver, chosen one. Hidden, yes, but sharpened, polished, prepared for precision. But why now? Why is God pulling you out of hiding at this stage of your life? Because this generation desperately needs what you carry. They need your stability in their chaos. They need your wisdom in their confusion. They need your faith in their doubt. They need to see what it looks like when someone has walked with God for decades and still believes He's faithful. Your grandchildren don't need another influencer on their phone. They need a grandmother who carries the presence of God. Your community doesn't need another young voice shouting about change. They need an elder statesman who knows how to pray down heaven. Your church doesn't need another person in the back pew. They need a warrior who has battle scars and victory stories. From hidden to highlighted, from forgotten to favored, from overlooked to anointed. This is your hour, not to retire from the battle, but to lead the charge. Not to step back from influence, but to step into your inheritance. The seed is breaking through the soil, and the sunlight of God's favor is about to hit your face in ways that will blind your enemies and astound your family. But here's the prophetic vision I see over you right now. I see you carrying light into your family line, not just being a sweet grandparent, but being a generational curse breaker. I see you speaking life over prodigal children and watching them come home. I see you laying hands on sick grandchildren and watching them recover. I see you becoming the prayer warrior your family didn't know they needed. Your legacy will ripple for generations. The prayers you're about to pray will echo in your great-great-grandchildren's victories. The wisdom you're about to speak will guide decisions 50 years from now. The stand you're about to take will shift the spiritual atmosphere over your entire bloodline. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You are not the background of the story. You are not the supporting character in someone else's narrative. You are the chosen vessel of the prophecy. You are the one God has been preparing for such a time as this. The enemy convinced you that your season was over because he's terrified of your season beginning. He knows that when a 70-year-old saint gets a fresh vision from heaven, kingdoms shake. When an 80-year-old prayer warrior remembers who they are in Christ, hell panics. When a senior citizen stops apologizing for taking up space and starts occupying their God-ordained territory, the earth trembles. Right now, I want you to stand up. Yes, physically stand up. Don't just sit there and listen to me. Participate in your own resurrection. Put your hand on your heart and feel it beating. That's not just blood pumping. That's destiny calling. That's purpose pulsing. That's God saying, "You're not done yet." Now declare this out loud. Say it with me. I will shine. My light will not be dimmed. My voice will not be silenced. My influence will not be buried. I am coming out of hiding, and I will highlight the glory of God for the world to see. The soil is breaking, chosen one. The sunlight is breaking through. Your time of hiding is over. Your moment of highlighting has begun, chosen one. As we come to the close of this divine encounter, let me remind you of the truth that has been burning in your spirit for the past hour. You are not forgotten. You are not finished. You are not fading into the background of someone else's story. God's hidden plan for your life has been revealed, and it is magnificent beyond anything you could have imagined. Remember this: every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottle. Every prayer you've whispered in the darkness has been heard. Every moment you felt invisible, God was preparing you for visibility. Every season you felt overlooked, heaven was positioning you for overflow. The years you thought were wasted were actually invested in your preparation for this very moment. You are not walking this journey alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea for Moses at 80 years old is still parting waters today. The same God who gave Sarah a child at 90 is still in the miracle business. The same God who used Noah to save humanity at 600 years old is still using seasoned saints to change the world. And beloved, you have a community here. Thousands of chosen ones just like you, walking this same path of late in life purpose. We are praying with you, believing with you, standing with you. When you feel the weight of this calling, remember that you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, both in heaven and right here on earth. Let me ask you something that will echo in your heart long after this video ends. If God has revealed His hidden plan to you today, what will you do with tomorrow? Will you wake up as the same person who started watching this video, or will you rise as the chosen vessel you now know yourself to be? Before I release you into your destiny, let me pray over you with the authority of heaven and the tenderness of a father's heart. Heavenly Father, I place my hands on the shoulders of every precious saint listening to these words. You see them, Lord. You see the weariness in their bones and the fire in their spirits. You see the doubt they've carried and the dreams they've buried. You see the years of faithful service and the seasons of silent suffering. I pray right now that you would breathe fresh vision into tired eyes. Give them the strength of eagles to soar when others think they should settle. Give them the boldness of lions when the world expects them to be lambs. Anoint their words with power, their prayers with breakthrough, their presence with your glory. Open doors that have been shut for decades. Restore relationships that seemed beyond repair. Heal bodies that have been broken. Renew minds that have grown weary. Pour out your spirit on this generation of elders who refuse to be sidelined. Let their families see the change. Let their communities witness the transformation. Let their enemies be confounded by the favor you're about to display. Give them supernatural energy, divine health, and holy boldness to walk in everything you've revealed today. And Lord, when doubt whispers, let them remember this moment. When fear creeps in, let them recall your promises. When the enemy tries to convince them they're too old, too tired, too late, let them stand on the truth that with you, it's never too late for a miracle. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release this blessing over every listening ear. Amen and amen. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me what God spoke to your heart today. What part of his hidden plan did he reveal to you? Don't keep this encounter to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not forgotten. Forward this message to that friend who thinks their best days are behind them. Let them know there's a community here that believes God still has plans for seasoned saints. If this message stirred something in your spirit, don't let this be the last time we meet. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a word that God has for you. Hit that notification bell because heaven has more to say to this generation of chosen ones. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what God wanted to deposit. Thank you for believing that your story isn't over, but just beginning its greatest chapter. Go now, in peace, knowing that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the same God who holds your tomorrow. His hidden plan is no longer hidden. Your time of highlighting has begun. The best is yet to come, beloved. The best is yet to come.